Seraphina's POV. Cooking? I paused, momentarily thrown off. Never in a million years did I picture Nathaniel doing anything remotely culinary. Seraphina, you probably don't know this, Isolde said with a self-satisfied grin, but Nathaniel is actually a fantastic cook. He lived on his own during college and sharpened his skills in the kitchen. He used to cook for me all the time. Her tone dripped with smugness, clearly aimed at me. I saw right through her, but it still stung. A man who cooks for the woman he loves is obviously showing care and affection. Yet in the 3 years Nathaniel and I have been married, he's never cooked for me once, never even hinted that he knew how. People say cooking together can bring a couple closer. Even though we have maids in the pack house, I'd sometimes make meals myself. Nathaniel, however, never offered to help. That's the stark difference between being loved and not. Fighting back the bitterness swelling inside me, I said calmly, "Pass the phone to Nathaniel. I need to ask him something." "What's it about?" Isolde challenged, making it all too clear she was blocking me on purpose. It was almost comical. I'm still Nathaniel's mate, yet I have to go through her just to speak to him? Even though I'd already made up my mind to leave Nathaniel, I wasn't about to let her flaunt her position. "Hand the phone over, Isolde," I repeated. "I want to speak to him directly." She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. "This call is automatically recorded. If you don't want me playing this back to Nathaniel, be a good girl and give him the phone." Her expression changed. She knew Nathaniel wouldn't leave her over something so minor, but she still liked to keep up appearances. With no choice, she grudgingly made her way to the kitchen. The call stayed connected, and a few seconds later, I heard Isolde's voice again. "Nathaniel, Seraphina wants to talk to you." "I'm busy," he called from somewhere farther away. "Did she say why?" "She wouldn't tell me." A brief silence, then Nathaniel's voice came closer. "Seraphina, what is it?" "What is it?" "Nathaniel, where is my phone?" I asked. "I have it." "Why do you have my phone?" "I forgot mine at the club, so I used yours to get in touch with someone who could bring it over. I was in a rush and accidentally took yours instead." Out of the corner of my mind, I pictured Isolde's face lighting up with a strange gleam. "So I can't check the trending topics now? Was this really just an accident, or did he do it on purpose?" Despite the unease creeping up on me, I kept my tone even. "Could you have someone send it back to me?" He let out a quick sigh. "I'm afraid not." "Where are you right now? I can send someone to pick it up." "I'm at Isolde's pack house. We're about to leave soon." "Then just leave my phone at the door. It might get stolen. Then hand it to the security guard at your community gate." "That won't work either. Nightfang Security is on leave today." I fell silent, speechless at how ridiculous this was. After taking a steadying breath, I simply hung up. "Fine. If I can't have my phone, I'll do without." Arya looked at me uncertainly. "Luna, would you like to use mine for now?" I shook my head and handed it back. "No need." Nathaniel's POV. After Isolde ended the call, she switched off the phone and slipped it into my pocket. Fixing her gaze on me, she spoke softly. "Nathaniel, why did you lie?" I kept my composure, my tone measured. I was worried she'd see the headlines, freak out, and try to clear everything up. Then it'd blow back on you. If we can stall until the gossip dies down, no one gets hurt. A fleeting spark of triumph flitted through her eyes, quickly replaced by a show of guilt. "But that's not fair to Seraphina, Nathaniel. Why don't we help her explain? I'm tired of hiding. I want to be with you openly, even if everyone points fingers and calls me awful things. I don't care." I frowned slightly, meeting her determined gaze but keeping my voice calm. "It's still not the right time. The pack might not be ready to accept you as the new Luna, and you're a public figure. If you step up to explain, it'll definitely mess with your career in the human world." My words froze the smile on her face, leaving a trace of disappointment in her expression. She lowered her voice. "Isolde," I said more gently now, "don't worry about it. I'm the one who asked you to stay silent. If Seraphina wants to blame someone, she can blame me. You just focus on your work. I'll handle the rest." She paused before nodding, then slipped her arms around my waist from behind, resting her cheek against my back. "Nathaniel," she murmured, "you're so good to me." I didn't respond, just patted her arm lightly. "Okay, go wait outside. Dinner will be ready soon." "All right." She let go of me and headed for the door. I watched her leave, lingering for a few moments before turning back to my cooking. I had lied. It wasn't really that I was afraid Seraphina would come running to defend herself. I was worried she'd see all those vicious comments and end up hurt. But when Isolde asked, for some reason, I just couldn't bring myself to admit that Seraphina's POV. "Luna, are you heading out?" Arya asked softly. "Yes, today is my parents' death anniversary. I want to pay my respects." I gave Arya a small smile and stepped out of the living room. My father and mother were heroes of our pack, and their graves lie alongside the final resting places of other brave warriors who sacrificed everything for us. On the way to the cemetery, I picked up 2 bouquets of fresh flowers, a few candles, and a bottle of my father's favorite deer blood wine, the kind he used to sip before bed. Once I arrived, I placed the flowers in front of their tombstones and lit the candles. I sat down, gazing at the cold stone that looked no different from any of the others. The moment I closed my eyes, memories of that brutal battle where they lost their lives came rushing back. It's been 10 years, yet I still can't forget. If my mother hadn't shoved me aside with her last breath, I would have died right there with them. The horror of that day has grown more distant over time, but my father remains unforgettable. He was the greatest dad in the world, the hero who saved AAA Pack. When I was born, my father, Maxwell Ravenscroft, was already a seasoned bait, traveling between different packs to gather intel and resolve disputes. He was gone most of the time, leaving me with my aging grandparents. Back then, I didn't understand why he kept leaving. I even resented him for not staying in our own pack. It wasn't until I got older that I finally understood what being a bait truly meant. Stories about him had been whispered around pack bonfires for years. His name was recorded in ancient texts, marked by wisdom and loyalty. The turning point was how he earned the trust of Fu Magnus, the old alpha who ruled an entire region. It happened on a full moon night. The forest was silent, and every wolf was on high alert. My father walked into the old alpha's territory without bowing or backing down, standing tall beneath those old, gold eyes that weighed so heavily with age. Fu Magnus went quiet, and the air practically crackled with tension. Then, with a low scoff, he asked, "And why would I ever let you roam freely in my pack?" My father responded with a faint smile, pressing his palm against the ground. His fingertips grazed a dried bloodstain. His voice was deep and calm. "Because you need someone who can listen to the wind, and I'm the best bait there is." He didn't explain any further. That night, under Fu Magnus's watchful gaze, my father underwent his trial. By dawn, he was still standing, a line of silent wolves behind him. He carried the chill of night, his expression both composed and razor-sharp. From that moment on, he became the old alpha's most trusted bait, roaming the borders of the pack and maintaining the wolves' delicate balance. It wasn't until I grew up that I finally realized what he'd been protecting all along. It was so much bigger than just our own family. "Father," I whispered, "I came today not just to pay my respects, but also to tell you something. I'm going to divorce him." I could almost picture the surprise on his face. You're probably wondering how that's possible. The last time I was here, I told you he treated me well. He was an alpha I thought I could spend the rest of my life with. Yet here I am, a few months later, telling you it's over. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Honestly, I think so too. My head is spinning. I can't figure out how things got to this point. If someone had told me a few months ago that I'd leave my alpha, I would have laughed in their face. I was his Luna. He once swore he'd protect me forever, and I loved him so deeply. How could it all end in divorce? It's kind of laughable, but it really happened. I tore our vows apart with my own hands, like shredding moonlight from the old days. This story is too long and tangled to explain right now, Father. I don't even know where to start. I'm pregnant. Your grandchild is on the way. If your spirit is watching over me, please bless my little howler so he can arrive in this world safely. I still like him. I've liked him for 10 whole years, and I was his Luna for 3. How am I supposed to just forget him overnight? But now I don't have a choice. It hurts. It really hurts. Maybe we were just missing that last sliver of fate. He never truly loved me. He always kept his ex-girlfriend in his heart. No matter how hard I tried, I could never erase her shadow. 3 years passed. I hoped time would make him notice me, feel me. But in the end, he stayed cold. I'm too exhausted to keep going, so I have to leave. Isn't it pathetic? Isn't it a total failure? If you were still here, you'd tell me to let go, but I just can't. My voice trembles. I've liked him for 10 years, finally became his Luna, and everything seemed so good, so why the sudden divorce? How did it come to this? I kneel in front of my father's headstone, whispering as if I'm speaking to the wind, like I'm bidding farewell to the past. Saying it all out loud is the only way to ease the ache in my heart, if only for a moment. There's no undoing this. Our divorce is final. Since it's done, I might as well accept it. I still have my little howler. I'll bring him into this world and he'll take my last name. He's my pup, and I'll raise him to be strong, so he never has to bow his head to anyone. Deep down, I know that after Nathaniel, I'll never be able to open my heart to anyone else again. Nathaniel is a powerful alpha, born with every advantage, a prominent family, talent, and influence. But he's also the most cold-hearted man I've ever known. He was never really mine, and it took me 10 years to figure that out. Every one of his actions showed me that no amount of a Luna's love can warm an alpha who doesn't belong to her. I stayed at the graveyard until late afternoon. A wind drifted through the forest, carrying the damp scent of soil. It felt like it was silently answering me. I poured out everything to my father, my divorce from Nathaniel, and all the plans I've made. Once the old Alpha and Luna of the Silvermoon Crest Pack find out, I'm leaving. Whether Nathaniel agrees or not, I won't stay in his pack or set foot on his territory again. I'll find some place to survive, settle down, have little Howler, and raise him to be strong. As for the Silvermoon Crest Pack, maybe someday I'll bring little Howler back to pay his respects to his ancestors. But that would be out of courtesy, not belonging. Because my sense of belonging vanished with this broken vow, carried away on the breeze. I bow 3 times before my father's grave. Dad, I'm heading off now. I'll come see you again when the new year comes. I stand, leave the cemetery, and drive away. I inch toward the highway entrance, stuck behind slow-moving traffic, when suddenly a black SUV swerves in from behind, squeezing itself between my car and the one ahead. I slam on the brakes, and the tires shriek against the pavement. My heart pounds, and I glare at the road ahead. The black SUV keeps driving at a steady pace, neither too fast nor too slow, like it's waiting for something. Then the car in front of it slams on its brakes. I slow down immediately, checking my mirrors nervously. I switch lanes, speed up, and pass the SUV, but before long, it accelerates, catches up, and slips right back in front of me. My grip on the steering wheel tightens. Cold sweat breaks out on my back. A few minutes later, it happens again. Its brake lights flare, forcing me to brake hard. The moment I try to change lanes, it veers over too, skillfully blocking me. This is no accident. Someone's messing with me on purpose. The only question is, why? I had no clue who owned the SUV up ahead. Just moments earlier, as it sped past, I caught a glimpse of the driver through the window. He flashed me the strangest smile. That smile sent a chill snaking down my spine. The real problem was I had no idea who he was. Right as I was about to take my exit off the highway, I deliberately slowed down, hoping to lose that SUV. But the second I veered onto the ramp, there it was, clinging to my rear bumper, like it had been waiting for this exact moment. It followed me off the highway, swung around to the front, and blocked my path, deliberately slowing down. I had no choice but to brake, yet whenever I eased off, it dropped its speed even more, like it was daring me to make a risky move. I tried changing lanes, but the SUV kept cutting me off so I couldn't pass. My heart thundered in my chest, and anger simmered just below the surface. But I knew better than to tangle with a stranger whose motives were a mystery, especially when I couldn't risk my own safety or that of little Howler inside me. If this was just a typical road rage incident, he would have pulled his stunt and moved on, but he didn't. He was toying with me, and I was clearly the prey in this twisted game. Taking a deep breath, I forced myself to stay calm. Checking the rearview mirror, I noticed a white car trailing behind. When did that thing start following me? Quickly sizing up the traffic, I eased into the far right lane and flipped on my signal, aiming to pull over and call Nightfang security. But the moment my finger hit the dial, boom! A deafening crash ripped through the night. An instant later, the airbag exploded in my face, smashing into me with brutal force. Pain tore through my body, and a piercing ring swallowed every other sound. My vision blurred, and I could taste blood flooding my mouth. My consciousness began to slip. In the last flicker of awareness, I spotted that same white car in the mirror, still hanging back like a patient predator watching everything unfold. All of a sudden, the entire vehicle was consumed by flames. Fire erupted, devouring everything in its path. A scorching wave of heat crashed over me, dragging me into oblivion. That terrifying scene kept replaying in my mind. I jerked awake, my skull pounding like it was about to split. The sharp scent of disinfectant hung in the air, and I realized I was in a hospital. Everything looked blurry. I rubbed my eyes, trying to bring the room into focus, but no matter how long I waited, my vision stayed murky and indistinct. A heavy dread seized my heart, and a nameless fear and unease swept through me. "You're awake." A voice I knew drifted into my ears, gentle but edged with worry. I struggled to open my eyes but my vision remained blurred. I could just make out a faint silhouette and the pale hue of her clothing. Everything else, her face, even the cut of her outfit, was lost to me. "Vivi?" My voice came out hoarse. "It's me." She held my hand lightly, her warm palm offering quiet reassurance. "Don't worry, Seraphina. You were in a car accident. You have a mild concussion, and there's some fluid pressing on your optic nerve. Once it's absorbed, your sight should return." Not being able to see clearly felt terrifying. My heart pounded as I tightened my grip on her arm. "What about my little howler? Is he okay?" Vivian paused, then gently cradled my fingertips with her own, her voice both tender and firm. "He's fine. I confirmed his heartbeat is strong. Everything looks good." At last, the tension that kept me coiled like a spring began to loosen, though a kernel of worry still gnawed at me. "Will the medication affect him?" I asked. "I've already checked with the apothecary," she said, patting my hand softly, her tone resolute. "Your injuries aren't severe, and every drug will be carefully screened so they won't harm the baby. I promise, Seraphina." A quivering breath escaped me, and I realized my fingertips were trembling as I let go of her arm. A long sigh slipped from my lips. "Nightfang's security is waiting outside. Should I let them in now?" "Yes, please do." Once I gave my permission, Vivienne turned and opened the door to my hospital room. Squinting, I still couldn't make out who entered. I only sensed the imposing silhouette of a tall man and caught the distinctive scent shared by all Pack Nightfang security members, a mix of steel and wind. "Luna, I'm Brecken. How are you feeling? We need to gather details about the accident. Are you up to answering a few questions?" A deep male voice reached me from the doorway, calm and commanding, like that of a warrior. I nodded, my throat still scratchy. "Yes, go ahead." "What were you doing at the time of the incident?" "Why, I was on my way back to the Pack House. It's my father's Memorial Day, so I'd gone to visit him at the cemetery before driving home." Brecken paused, his tone steady. "Your car was parked on the roadside and got rear-ended. The suspect fled. Do you remember anything leading up to that moment?" Taking a steadying breath, I brushed a stray lock of hair from my forehead and nodded. "I do. Please tell me everything in detail." Seraphina's POV. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, recalling every detail of the accident. I repeated everything to Brecken, word for word. "It matches the security camera footage," he said in a low voice, scribbling notes in his notebook. Then his expression turned serious. "So you believe the black car and the white car caused the accident on purpose? And you're sure you don't know the black car's driver?" "I'm sure," I replied firmly. "What about the white car's driver? Did you get a good look at him?" I shook my head, frowning. "No, he was behind me most of the time. When I changed lanes, I saw him a few times in the rearview mirror, but he was too far back to make out his face." Brecken cursed under his breath, snapped his notebook shut, and his face darkened. Leah, the female warrior standing nearby, a core member of Pack Nightfang security, spoke gently to me. "Don't worry, we're already tracking them. They won't get far in our territory." I nodded. In this day and age, it's hard to hide when there are security cameras everywhere. "Thank you," I said, my voice still a bit raspy. Brecken looked at me, his tone softening slightly. "Luna, do you want to contact the Alpha?" I hesitated for a moment, then spoke quietly. "I left my phone at home. Could I borrow yours to make a call?" "Of course. Just give me the number," Brecken said with a nod. Nathaniel's number almost slipped out, but I held it back. He's probably still with Isolde right now. My fingertips curled a little, and a bitter smile tugged at my lips. In the end, I gave him Aria's number instead. As soon as the call connected, Brecken handed the phone to me. Aria's puzzled voice came through on the other end. "Hello? Who is this?" "Aria, it's me." "Luna," she exclaimed, her tone brightening instantly. "You left without your phone, and it's already so late. Why aren't you back yet?" I let out a soft sigh. "I had a car accident. Could you come to the Moonlight Healing Center? I need a change of clothes, some toiletries, and my wallet. They're all on my desk." There was a brief silence before Aria's anxious voice kicked in. "Are you hurt? Is it serious? I'm on my way." "It's not serious." I tried to keep my voice steady. But Brecken and Leah didn't look relieved. They knew this wasn't just a random crash. It was a planned hunt. "Got it. I'll be there soon," Aria said quickly. Hanging up, I returned the phone to Brecken. "Thank you." "No problem. As soon as we catch the suspects, we'll let you know right away. Beautiful, Luna." "All right." Brecken and Leah exchanged a glance. Once they saw I was safe for the moment, they left the room and closed the door behind them. Not long after, the door opened again, and a familiar scent wafted in. "Vivienne, okay, time for the doctor to do her job," she said breezily, coming to my bedside to examine me with her usual careful precision. I hesitated before speaking. "Aria will be here soon to help me with the paperwork. Please don't let her see my medical records, and don't mention that I'm pregnant." Vivienne frowned. "You're still not planning to tell the Alpha?" "He's about to remarry," I said flatly, as if I were stating a simple fact. A silence settled in the room. Vivienne tapped her pen against her clipboard twice, then let out a snort. "So he's getting ready to welcome a new Luna while you're carrying his little howler?" She made no attempt to hide the sarcasm in her voice. I didn't answer. I just turned my head to stare at the blurred darkness beyond the window. Vivienne watched me for a moment, then sighed and patted my hand. "Fine, I won't say anything." Her tone was firm and a bit frosty. Clearly, she had no fondness for Nathaniel. "Get some rest. I'll handle everything once everyone arrives," she added. Left alone on the hospital bed, I gazed up at the ceiling, feeling bored and restless. There's someone at the door. I lift my gaze, staring for a long moment at what seems like a blurred patch of darkness before I realize it's a person, dressed completely in black. Why is he just standing there, not coming in? Confusion tugs at me. Finally, the figure in black steps inside. He stops by my hospital bed, moves a few steps closer, and settles right beside me. Startled, I squint, trying to make out his face. But no matter how hard I try, everything stays hazy. I do my best to figure out who he is and venture. "Nathaniel?" "It's me, Seraphina. What happened to your eyes?" His voice is low, laced with worry. I feel him lift a hand to my cheek, gently brushing his palm against the bandage on my forehead. He must have thought it was strange that I stared so long without saying anything. His familiar scent reassures me. It really is Nathaniel. "There's fluid in my head pressing on the optic nerve," I explain. "My vision's blurry, so I can't see clearly right now." Nathaniel waves a hand in front of my face. "You see this?" I let out a small sigh. "I'm not completely blind. I just see everything in a blur." "What caused the accident all of a sudden?" "Today's my dad's death anniversary. I went to the cemetery to pay my respects, and on the way back, someone cut me off and forced my car into a rear-end collision." I keep it brief, then ask, "Why are you here?" "I was at the pack house. Aria told me you'd been in an accident, so I came." He doesn't go into detail, but I can imagine how worried he was. He'd probably just gotten back to the pack house this afternoon, realized I'd driven to the cemetery, noticed it was almost dinner time and I still wasn't back. When he tried calling, he must have discovered my phone was with him. As soon as he heard about the accident, he rushed over. When I arrived, Aria was still packing up, so she'll be here later. Wait here. I'm going to check with Vivienne about what happened. Vivi said everything's fine. There's no need for you to go. Besides, Brecken and the others are already investigating. Nathaniel seems to consider this, then asks, "Aside from your head, did you get hurt anywhere else?" I shake my head. "No. Just focus on resting for the next few days. Don't worry about work." I lean back against the headboard with a weary sigh. I've been so unlucky lately. This is already my second, no, maybe third time ending up in Pack Hospital. Nathaniel stands off to the side, arms folded, that usual calm, steady look in his eyes. Once you're better, maybe you should go to the ancestral shrine to pray. People say it really helps. I lift an eyebrow, letting out a quiet laugh. Never figured you'd believe in that kind of thing. He glances at me, his tone mild. Didn't you say your luck's been awful? I purse my lips with a small hum. All right, I'll give it a shot. Are you hungry? Need something to eat? His voice softens, just a touch of concern slipping through. I recall the phone call from this morning, and my heart clenches for a reason I can't quite explain. Before I can stop myself, I blurt out, I want to eat something you cooked. There's a simple kitchenette here, so it wouldn't be a big deal. Yet Nathaniel falls silent. After a few seconds of awkward stillness, I realize what I've just said. I let out a self-deprecating laugh. Right, I forgot. You don't cook. I must be out of my mind for even bringing it up. Seraphina's POV. Early Monday morning, I woke up, washed up, changed out of my hospital gown, and had breakfast. Then I waited in my hospital room for Nathaniel. I waited all morning, and it wasn't until the afternoon that he finally showed up. Sorry, something came up this morning, he said. I smiled, shook my head, and walked toward the door. It's fine. We still have time. Noticing how eager I was, he frowned slightly. You seem really happy about breaking the mate bond. A pang shot through my chest, but I forced a smile. Yes, I am. It'll finally set me free. Set me free. I used those words because this marriage had disappointed me so deeply. Nathaniel's face darkened a bit, and his voice turned cold. Congratulations. Let's go, I said, looking at him. He turned and opened the door. 2 pack warriors stood outside, about to knock. When they noticed Nathaniel, the female warrior, Leah, paused, letting her gaze linger briefly on his stern features before speaking. Alpha, you're here too? Leah straightened. We're with Nightfang Security, in charge of investigating Luna's car accident. We've arrested 2 suspects, but they refuse to admit any prior conspiracy. We need to question you again to see if there's anything we might have missed. All right, Nathaniel said calmly, though his natural authority as Alpha still made the 2 young warriors a bit uneasy. He stepped aside, motioning for them to enter. I heard them speaking at the doorway and then gestured toward the sofa. Please, have a seat. Thank you for your hard work. Arya stepped forward to pour water for them. Nathaniel sat beside me, leaning back against the sofa with his legs crossed. Even though he stayed quiet, the power he radiated seemed to make them tense. Leah composed herself, took out a notebook, and continued, Luna, as you may have heard, the 2 suspects won't admit to planning anything beforehand. They claim they just thought you looked attractive and decided on a whim to mess with you. Her tone carried a faint contempt, clearly finding their excuse absurd. She glanced at the file in her hand. 1 suspect is from the Golden Crescent Pack. The driver of the black SUV is Xavier, 23, currently working as a mechanic. The driver of the white car is Leon, 20, a human who's been warned multiple times for provoking people. According to our investigation, these 2 don't actually know each other. She looked up. Luna, do these names sound familiar at all? I thought carefully and shook my head. No, I've never heard of them. The room fell silent for a moment. If they really had acted on a whim because they found me attractive, it could have just been a random incident, but my instincts told me there was more to it. After a brief pause, Leah asked, Luna, have you had any personal or work-related conflicts recently? Anything that might connect to this? Or any similar incidents before now? I mulled it over, then answered, I've had a few work disputes. As for anything else, something did happen a few days ago. I'm not sure if it's related. What was it? A few days ago, I received an anonymous package filled with something incredibly disgusting and bloody. The sender claimed to be a fan of an actress I once had a conflict with. I kept my voice steady, but the air in the room seemed to grow colder. 2 things might seem totally unrelated, but my instincts tell me there's a chance they're connected. Nathaniel is sitting nearby, his head slightly bowed. His fingers are intertwined in front of him, and every so often he taps his index finger against his knee. His breathing is steady, but I can tell he's already strategizing his next move. After a moment, he finally speaks in a low, measured voice. You're suggesting these 2 suspects might be that actress's fans, Pissed off on her behalf, so they decided to avenge her? I glance up at him and reply evenly, it's just a theory. We still need actual proof. Leah thinks it over, stays quiet for a beat, then nods. It's not an unreasonable guess. But she suddenly recalls that just yesterday, people were accusing me of breaking up Nathaniel and Isolde, calling me a homewrecker. She hesitates, shooting a look at Nathaniel. Everyone in the pack knows who the real Luna is, but humans have no clue. They all feel sorry for Isolde, so her more extreme fans come after me, the so-called other woman. No wonder Xavier and Leon had no real-life connection. Maybe they didn't even know each other before now. Turns out they're both Isolde's fans, driven by the same motive. So they teamed up to orchestrate all of this. She closed her notebook and turned to Nathaniel. Alpha, we'd like your permission to keep investigating. We want to see if we can gather more solid evidence. Right then, Leah's phone rang. She stood up, stepped outside, and returned a moment later. Pushing the door open, she spoke in a crisp tone. Luna, you guessed right. Our tech team managed to recover parts of Xavier and Leon's chat logs, and it turns out they really are supporters of Isolde. She walked over to the bed, opened the report she was holding, and continued, they've been attacking people on various social platforms for a while now. Even though they deleted some of their records, our team was able to restore several key pieces of evidence. I let out a small sigh of relief and nodded. At least now we have a lead. Brecken stood and bowed slightly. Alpha, Luna, we'll keep digging. If anything new comes up, we'll let you know right away. All right, thank you both for your help. Once they left, I turned around and found Nathaniel still sitting on the sofa, unmoving. It was like he hadn't even noticed our visitors leave. Let's head to the moonlit oath hall to finalize the dissolution ceremony, I said. He sat with his head lowered, most of his face hidden in shadow, his expression dark and unreadable. Nathaniel? I called when he didn't respond. He finally snapped out of it and stood. Yeah, let's go. We got into the car one after the other. I leaned back against the seat and closed my eyes, too exhausted to pay any attention to the passing scenery. Silence filled the car, so quiet I could hear us breathing. I had no idea how much time went by before Rowan, the driver, spoke. Alpha, Luna, we've arrived at the moonlit oath hall. Okay. I opened my eyes and stepped out of the car. On the other side, Nathaniel reached out and grabbed my wrist. Wait, he said. What's wrong? I forgot the document folder back at the hospital. Inside that folder were our divorce papers and the lunar goddess pledge, everything we needed. My lips twitched in frustration. So, what now? We'll have to go back for it. Call Arya and have her bring it over in a taxi. That'll be faster. Nathaniel's POV. A sudden idea crossed my mind, darkening my expression. All right, I'll call her right now. I opened the car door and stepped out, pulling out my phone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Arya's name, but my finger hovered over the call button, refusing to press it. After a moment, I sighed softly, turned off my phone, and got back into the car. I just talked to Arya, I said casually. She'll bring it over soon. Let's just wait. Seraphina nodded slightly, not appearing suspicious in the least. All of a sudden, I caught Rowan's gaze in the rearview mirror. The shock in his eyes made my heart sink. He hadn't expected me and Alpha to fake a call. He must have seen everything through the window, how I never actually made the call and was just trying to comfort Seraphina. Part of me found it kind of amusing, but another part was annoyed. I shot Rowan a pointed glare in the mirror. His body tensed, his heartbeat quickened, and I could practically smell his cold sweat. Get out, I ordered, my voice level. Yes, Alpha, he stammered, stumbling out of the car in a frenzy, rushing off as fast as he could. Nathaniel's POV. A long silence stretched inside the car. Finally, I broke it. Seraphina, about your accident, I dragged you into that mess, and I want to apologize. I looked at her calm expression, but her dark eyes gave nothing away. Inside, my thoughts were in turmoil. You've already apologized, haven't you? She replied, her voice composed. None of us expected those obsessive fans to keep harping on this incident. I don't blame you. My throat felt tight. She had no idea about everything that happened yesterday. She thought I was still referring to the makeup incident. Now that she can barely read anything on her phone or computer, I don't have to worry about her seeing all the trash people are posting online, but for some reason, knowing she's shielded from it doesn't bring me any real comfort. I'm sorry. I said again, softly. It's fine. Let's just put it behind us. Her tone was steady, unchanged. Silence fell once more. After a while, Seraphina suddenly asked, "What time is it?" "It's 2:10, I answered, feeling my chest tighten. "How long has it been? Where's Arya?" "Maybe she's having trouble finding a cab, or something happened on the way," I said uneasily. "Let's give her a bit more time." "All right," she said quietly, then lapsed into silence again. More time passed before she spoke up once more. "Why isn't Arya here yet? Nathaniel, call her again. See what's going on." "Sure." I nodded, opened the car door, and stepped outside. The cool breeze hit me, clearing my head for a moment. My thoughts drifted back to the chaos in my mind. Isolde's misery began with me. She developed severe depression and tried to end her life multiple times. She once swore that as long as I stayed, she'd keep living. I promised I would never leave her, that I would always take care of her. Meanwhile, Seraphina still has the old Alpha and Luna, and there's also someone else she truly loves. Maybe once our mate bond is broken, she'll find real happiness. But Isolde has no one but me. If I leave her, she'll die, for sure. Faced with that, I can't see any other option. I'm sorry, Seraphina. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, then looked back at her waiting in the car. Pulling out my phone, I called Arya. "Arya, I forgot the document folder on the table. Could you grab it and take a cab over to the Moonlit Oath Hall? We're waiting out front, so please hurry." "Yes, Alpha," Arya answered right away. I returned to the car and told Seraphina, "Arya got stuck in traffic and had to switch routes. She'll be here soon." She acknowledged me softly. I stayed quiet for a moment, absently running my fingertips over my knee, watching her. Then in a low voice I asked, "Seraphina, after we dissolve our mate bond, will you form a new bond with him?" She hesitated, like she was choosing her words. "Yes, I think so." It felt like an invisible hand squeezed my heart, but I kept my composure. I let out a slow breath, barely allowing my lips to twitch. "That's good." Quietly, I added, "In that case, I hope you and the one you love can seal a new bond and be happy together for the rest of your days." The air in the car grew heavier, as if even the night breeze had stopped blowing. She lifted her gaze and looked at me, her eyes full of conflicting emotions. I turned away, the faint trace of a smile slipping from my face. Our mate bond might still be intact for now, but her heart no longer belongs to me, Seraphina's POV. A bitter sting rose in my nose, and I quickly turned my gaze away, letting out a soft hum of acknowledgement. I know I'll never be able to give him and Isolde my blessing. He must truly not love me if he believes those words are kind. He doesn't realize I'm about to divorce the one I love. Once that's finalized, he'll get what he wants. He'll marry another Luna, become someone else's mate, and spend the rest of his life in wedded bliss. Meanwhile, there's no future for the two of us. We won't grow old together. I'll never have that happiness I once believed in. "Alpha," the driver said, walking over and tapping on the car window. "Arya is here." "Got it." Nathaniel and I each opened our doors and stepped out. Arya jogged over, handing him a file folder. "Alpha, I brought the documents." "Thank you." Nathaniel glanced at me, then moved closer and took my hand. "Let's go in. Watch your step." "All right." His hand was large and warm, just like always, gently enclosing mine. It reminded me of winter, when my hands were cold no matter what I did. Every time we finished work, Nathaniel would grab them first, then slip them into his own pockets to warm them. My throat tightened, and I felt a frown forming before I could stop it. 3 years ago, we walked side by side into the Moonlit Oath Hall, vowing to be each other's mate. Now, 3 years later, we're walking in hand again to sever that bond. This will be the last time he openly holds my hand. After today, we won't be mates anymore. He'll marry the one he truly wants, grow old with her, and leave me behind to find my own peace. We'll go our separate ways and never cross paths again. Behind us, Rowan and Arya exchanged a look and sighed quietly. Nathaniel and I entered the main hall of the Moonlit Oath Hall. Suddenly, his phone rang. He pulled it out and answered, "Hello, big bro?" Nathaniel's chest tightened and his face went pale. "All right, we'll be right there." He grabbed my hand and rushed outside. "What happened?" I asked, hurrying after him. "Fuyue said Grandpa just collapsed and is in critical condition. It sounds really bad." "What? Then let's get to the hospital right now." Grandpa's condition matters more than a divorce. The divorce can wait. Grandpa can't. Alpha, you've already? Not yet, Nathaniel replied, pulling the car door open for me. Fuyue said the old Alpha is in emergency treatment at the Moonlight Healing Center. We need to get there now. I climbed into the back seat and Nathaniel followed. Rowan's expression darkened as he started the engine without another word. We sped off toward the hospital, every second feeling too long. Moonlight Healing Center. Nathaniel held my hand as we rushed to the doors of the operating room. His palm was warm, but I felt a slight tremor rippling through it. Looking up at him, my voice tight with anxiety, I asked, "Grandma, Fuyue, how's Grandpa? How long has the surgery been going?" "It's been an hour," Fuyue answered in a low voice. Nathaniel's grip suddenly tightened, his knuckles turning white like he was trying to force his own anxiety down into his bones. Through my blurry vision, I caught sight of Grandma sitting just a few steps away. I went over and gently sat next to her, speaking softly. "Grandma, Grandpa's always been so strong. He'll make it through this." She gave me a small smile and placed her hand over mine, patting it gently as though comforting us both. "Seraphina, your grandpa and I have lived so many years together. I'm already grateful for the time we've had. I knew this day would come at some point, and I was prepared. Don't worry about me." She paused, her gaze skimming my face with a slight frown. "But you look so pale. And what happened to your forehead? Are you hurt badly?" I quickly shook my head and forced a weak smile. It felt more like a grimace than anything reassuring. "It's nothing, really. I just bumped it." But inside, my heart was in knots. If something terrible happened to Grandpa, what would I do? The last time I saw him, he looked perfectly healthy. How could things have gone wrong so suddenly? I couldn't bear the thought. Minutes crawled by. We waited outside the operating room for 3 agonizing hours. The silence felt suffocating, like the air had thickened around us, and everyone's expressions grew darker than the night. Seraphina's POV. Night had fallen by the time Grandma turned to Nathaniel, her voice gentle but firm. "Nathaniel, there's no point in waiting here any longer. Seraphina still has a head injury. Why don't you take her home first? Once your grandfather's out of surgery, Fuyue can call you." "No." I shook my head immediately and clung to Grandma's arm, my tone unwavering. "I'm not leaving, Grandma. I want to stay here with all of you. No matter what happened, I needed to see Grandfather as soon as possible." "Grandma will stay," Nathaniel added. Seeing our resolve, Grandma sighed softly and sat back down without another word. 2 more hours slipped by. Finally, the indicator light above the operating room switched off, the red glow turning a reassuring green. I leaped to my feet, and Nathaniel, Fuyue, and Grandma joined me at the door, waiting for the doctor. The door slid open. "Dr. Damien, how's my grandfather?" Nathaniel blurted, his voice rough and trembling. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice, tears burning at the corners of my eyes as I pressed my hands to my chest. Dr. Damien pulled down his surgical mask. He looked tired, but his tone was comforting. "The old Alpha's surgery went very well. He'll remain in the critical care ward for 2 days. If his condition remains stable, we can move him to a regular ward." Relief flooded through me, and tears slipped down my cheeks. My nerves finally began to settle. "Thank you, Dr. Damien," I managed to say. They transferred Grandfather onto a bed and wheeled him to the critical care ward. Seeing him so still on that bed was like a knife twisting in my heart. Just a few days ago, he'd been laughing, playing chess with me. Now he looked so frail. We followed until he was settled in his room. Dr. Damien reminded us in a gentle voice, "The old Alpha is very weak and needs absolute rest. Please keep your voices down and be patient." "Thank you for everything, Dr. Damien," Grandma murmured. He offered a kind nod. "It's my pleasure, Luna. If you need anything else, just let us know. I won't keep you any longer." After he left, Grandma looked at us, her tone softer than before. "Now that your grandfather's out of danger, you can breathe easier. You've been here for hours. Go home and eat something." "Grandma, you need rest too," I said, taking her hand. "We don't want you overexerting yourself while Grandfather recovers." "Seraphina's right," Nathaniel agreed. "Grandpa won't wake up anytime soon. You should conserve your strength so you'll be ready when he does." "Yes, Grandma," Fuyue chimed in. "He'll be asleep for a while. We'll stay here, and once he wakes up, we'll pick you up. Sound good?" Grandma hesitated, then finally nodded. All right. Fouye stepped forward to support her. I'll take you home, Grandma. Nathaniel, you and Seraphina stay with Grandfather. I'll come back as soon as I can. Got it, Nathaniel replied. Silence settled over the ward once they left, leaving just Nathaniel and me. The sharp smell of disinfectant hung in the air. My eyes stayed fixed on Grandfather's face, my heart still clenched with worry. You haven't eaten dinner yet, have you? Nathaniel asked quietly. I shook my head, my voice heavy with fatigue. No, not yet. I'll ask someone to bring some food, he said, then turned and walked out into the corridor. I watched him go, a small flicker of warmth sparking in my chest despite the lingering worry. Nathaniel's POV. I went to see Dr. Damien first. He wasn't exactly young anymore, and he'd just finished several hours of surgery. Leaning back in his chair, he looked drained. A sudden knock on the door made him glance up. Come in. I pushed open the door and stepped inside. As soon as Dr. Damien saw me, he offered a kind smile. Young Alpha, it's you. What can I do for you? Dr. Damien, I need to know how my grandfather, the old Alpha, is really doing. Don't worry, I'm alone. Just give it to me straight. He sat up, his expression heavy as he let out a weary sigh. To be honest, the old Alpha's injuries from his youth took a huge toll on him. Now that he's older, it's a struggle to keep him stable. Even though the surgery itself went well, his overall outlook is still grim. How long does he have? He met my gaze, then lifted 3 fingers. I'll do all I can, but realistically, it's 3 months tops. If he lives any longer, it'll be by the moon's grace. A jolt went through me, like someone had swung a hammer right into my chest. My insides ached. 3 months. My grandfather has only 3 months left. I wished it were just some sick joke, but I knew it wasn't. If even Dr. Damien, our top medical expert, said so, then there wasn't much hope. Nathaniel, I know this hits hard, Dr. Damien said softly. Your grandfather's known about this for a while and has come to terms with it. The only thing he's worried about is you. He stood, resting a hand on my shoulder. I've heard about you and Isolde on the news. Humans don't know the real story, so why not clear things up? My heart sank. Dr. Damien paused, then continued in a gentler tone. I've watched you grow up. You're the strongest Alpha we've got, our hope, but your grandfather doesn't have much time left. I hope you can give him a little peace in what time remains. My eyes stung, and I swallowed hard. I understand, Uncle Damien. Thank you. Leaving his office, my steps felt heavier than ever. I found a quiet spot, sank down, and just sat there like a statue, too numb to move. Seraphina's POV. Rowan came in carrying a lunchbox and helped me unpack it. Luna, Alpha asked me to bring you some food. I looked up at him and spoke quietly. Where's Nathaniel? I'm not sure, but he didn't take the car, so he must still be somewhere in the hospital. I nodded. Grandfather's condition had worsened, and I knew Nathaniel felt at least as anxious as I did. He was probably off on his own, trying to pull himself together. I wasn't really hungry, but for little Howler's sake I forced myself to eat a few bites. Soon, I heard footsteps in the corridor, and moments later, Nathaniel walked in. He looked composed, though his dark eyes revealed nothing. You're back. Come have something to eat, I said. All right. He sat down, took a few quick bites, then gathered the trash and threw it away. You haven't fully recovered yet, I reminded him. You shouldn't stay here all night. Go back to your ward and rest. I'll stay with Grandfather, and if he wakes up, I'll come get you. I nodded at my own words, then added, Don't overdo it. Around midnight, call my brother to relieve you. I will. He walked me back to my ward and only left after I was safely inside, then returned to Grandfather Magnus's room. Once back, I did a quick wash and went to bed. I wasn't sure how long I'd slept before sudden pounding on the door jolted me awake. I opened my eyes and rubbed them instinctively. My sight was still blurry, but from the dim outline of the window, I could tell it was the dead of night. Who is it? I called, switching on the bedside lamp and reaching for my clothes. Nathaniel's voice came from the other side of the door. Seraphina, Grandfather's awake. He wants to see you. All right, I'm coming. I dressed in a hurry and opened the door. Let's go. Wait, what is it? I stopped and looked at him. He stepped closer and, to my surprise, unfastened my shirt buttons one by one before fastening them correctly. You did them up wrong. Everything was out of alignment. I blinked, realizing my mistake. Oh, I didn't notice. What time is it? I asked quietly. It's 2:10 in the morning. We walked side by side to Magnus's room. The moment I entered, I went straight to his bedside. His face was pale and drawn, and my chest tightened at the sight. Grandfather, you're finally awake. You scared me half to death. I gently took his hand, my eyes stinging with tears, Seraphina's POV. As soon as I pushed the door open, my eyes locked onto a pair of murky yet still sharp golden ones. The old Alpha, once the powerful leader of the entire pack, now lay frail and half-reclining in his bed. A thick, gray blanket covered him, making his figure seem even more gaunt. Yet, even in his weakened state, he still held the irreplaceable presence he always had. His eyes narrowed, and his gaze dropped to the bandage on my forehead, instantly sharpening. Seraphina, what happened to your head? His voice was deep and hoarse, still carrying the weight of his alpha authority, though it couldn't mask the concern underneath. Before I could respond, a wave of emotions hit me. Even in such a critical condition, he was more concerned about me than himself. My throat tightened, and my eyes blurred with tears. What happened? He asked again, urgency creeping into his voice. Does it hurt? I shook my head vigorously, unwilling to let him worry about me. Grandpa, don't worry. I just bumped it a little. It's not serious. I'll be fine soon. He fell silent for a moment, as if weighing something, then sighed softly, exhaustion edging his tone. Don't take your body lightly. Don't end up like me. A wolf grows old eventually. I'm afraid I won't last much longer. No, my voice came out urgently, instinctively denying him. I rushed to his bedside, gripping his rough, aged hand, trying to warm him with my touch. Grandpa, don't say that. You'll get better. You will. He reached up, gently brushing my cheek and wiping away a tear that had slipped down. Still crying like when you were little? Always like this? He chuckled weakly, his voice soft and comforting, like he was soothing a frightened pup. I sniffled, swallowing the lump in my throat, and whispered, As long as you're okay, Grandpa, I won't cry. His gaze deepened, his eyes intense as he looked at me. After a long moment, his voice came out low and steady. Seraphina, Luna cannot fear aging and death. Every alpha reaches this point. Grandpa isn't afraid. I just hope you aren't either. I stood frozen, silent tears slipping down my cheeks. How could I not be afraid? All the goodbyes from the past, each one like an open wound that never healed. And now he, the one who had loved me most in this world, was leaving too? Good girl, don't cry, he murmured, pulling me into his embrace. Just as I felt myself crumbling, a familiar alpha scent drew near. A warm embrace wrapped around me, pulling me into a strong, broad chest. The comforting scent of Nathaniel surrounded me, calming the restless wolf inside me. Don't cry, Seraphina. Nathaniel's voice was deep and steady. He looked down at me. Grandpa is still here, isn't he? I froze for a moment, staring blankly, then quickly wiped my tears with my sleeve without forcing a smile. I'm losing it. Grandpa is fine. Why am I crying? I should be smiling. Nathaniel saw right through my forced smile, gently wiping the tears from my face. Grandpa had just undergone surgery, and it was already impressive that he was holding on this long. Grandpa, sleep. I'm here with you. I'll leave once you fall asleep. Okay, good girl. I quietly watched him, feeling the slow, steady rhythm of his breathing. He slept soundly, as if he had finally let go of all his defenses, able to rest at last. I was gazing at his sleeping face when I suddenly noticed Nathaniel's gaze. He had been standing quietly beside me, seemingly trying to signal something, though I couldn't quite figure out what. A moment later, he gently walked over, tapped my shoulder, and motioned toward the door. I got the message and slowly stood up, following him out of the room. Standing outside, Nathaniel lowered his voice. You should get some rest. I looked at his somewhat tired face and asked softly, What about you? You've been awake this whole time. Aren't you going to rest? I've already called my brother. He'll be here soon. Once he gets here, I'll come find you. Okay then. I'll go first. I'll walk you upstairs. When we returned to the room, I casually asked, Should I leave the door open? Yeah, I'll be in shortly. All right. I lay on the bed, staring up at the ceiling, but sleep wouldn't come. My mind kept circling back to Grandpa's condition, and it felt like a heavy stone was pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. But what troubled me the most was the promise Grandpa had made to Nathaniel before he fell unconscious. He had traded his own suffering for the chance to have me spend time with Nathaniel. Why? Why was I worth so much of his concern? If I had a choice, I'd give it all up just to have Grandpa safe and sound. But life doesn't work that way. A faint sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway, steady and calm, until they finally stopped at the door. The door creaked open, and Nathaniel walked in, his voice low. "Still awake?" "No, I just can't sleep." He didn't say anything else, but went into the room's small bathroom. After a quick wash, he took off his jacket, climbed into bed, and pulled the covers back. "Go to sleep." We both silently agreed not to mention Grandpa's condition. I closed my eyes, my thoughts still a mess, but eventually exhaustion took over. My mind started to blur, and I drifted into a light sleep. As the sky began to lighten, a sudden ringtone cut through the silence, snapping me awake. I instinctively reached for my phone, only to freeze. This wasn't mine. Nathaniel rolled over, grabbed his phone from the bedside table, and tossed the covers aside as he got out of bed. I thought he would step outside to take the call, but instead he stood by the window and answered, "Hello, Isolde." The voice on the other end of the line shattered the stillness of the room. "Nathaniel, I had a nightmare. Can you come see me?" Nathaniel's voice was calm, but there was a hint of fatigue in it. "Not today. Grandfather's sick, and I need to stay at the hospital with him." "What? Old Alpha is sick? Is it serious? Can I come visit him?" Nathaniel paused for a moment in silence, his gaze turning toward me. I quickly averted my eyes and shut them, pretending to still be asleep. But he clearly saw through my act. He covered the receiver with his hand and whispered, "Isolde wants to visit Grandfather. What do you think?" I knew pretending to sleep wouldn't help, so I finally opened my eyes, sat up, and looked at him. "Grandfather just had surgery yesterday, and his condition is still unstable. It's best not to disturb him. We can wait until he's moved to a regular room." He thought for a moment, then nodded. "All right." He brought the phone back to his ear, his voice calm again. "Isolde, Grandfather's condition isn't stable yet. Wait until he's better before coming over. Also, I might not have time to see you in the next few days." There was a pause on the other end. Then a trembling voice broke through. "Nathaniel, do you not want me anymore? I'm really scared. I dreamt I was locked in a small dark room again, and it was so dark. My throat was hoarse from screaming, but no one came to save me. They hit me and yelled at me, and..." Nathaniel's voice remained cold and firm. "Isolde, if you're scared, go see a psychologist." The voice on the other end trembled with a pleading tone. "I just want you to be with me." Nathaniel's tone didn't waver, carrying the natural authority of an alpha, firm and unyielding. "Isolde, are you forcing me to choose between you and Grandfather?" "I didn't mean that." "Even if you didn't, I need to make one thing clear." Nathaniel's voice dropped, low and sharp. "Between you and Grandfather, I will always choose Grandfather. Understand?" There was a soft gasp on the other end, laced with a note of panic. "Understood. Nathaniel, don't be mad. It's just that I was so scared. I'll listen to you and go see the doctor." The call ended, and the room fell silent once more. I didn't speak or look at him again. I simply closed my eyes slowly, a swirl of complicated emotions stirring within me. Nathaniel hung up the phone, rolled out of bed, and casually threw on some clothes. He glanced back at me, his voice low. "I'm going downstairs to check on Grandpa. You can sleep a little longer." I groggily responded, "Okay." My eyelids already heavy, on the verge of closing. I'm not sure how much time passed, but eventually I vaguely heard the door open, followed by the slight dip of the mattress. Nathaniel had returned. His tone was calm as he spoke. "Grandpa's still asleep. Lydia's staying with him." He slipped off his jacket and lay back down beside me, his hand gently resting on my waist, a gesture meant to comfort. "Go back to sleep for a bit." I closed my eyes again, drifting in and out of sleep for another half hour. When I finally felt a little more awake, I got up to freshen up, then joined Nathaniel to visit Magnus in the hospital room. As we reached the door to the ward, I could already hear voices inside. I paused, listening carefully, recognizing one as Freya, who had rushed over from Moonshadow Manor earlier, and the other as Lydia, Alex and Blackwood's wife. Just as I was about to open the door, Nathaniel took my hand, gently squeezing my fingers. Together, we stepped into the room. "Grandma, Lydia," I greeted them softly. Freya turned toward us, her tone warm when she saw us. "You're here. Why didn't you sleep a little longer?" "I couldn't sleep, so I came." I glanced over at the bed and quietly asked, "How's Grandpa now?" "He's still asleep." Freya sighed, then looked at us. "You haven't eaten yet, have you? You should go grab something to eat. There's no need for so many people to stay here." I nodded, exchanging a glance with Nathaniel. I spoke softly. "We'll go eat then. Grandma, Lydia, thank you for your hard work." Nathaniel took my hand and led me out of the room. The light in the hallway was brighter than in the room, making my eyes feel uncomfortable. I turned my head slightly as I heard him ask, "Should I have someone bring it, or—" "No need to trouble yourself. Let's just go to the hospital restaurant." I said, "The restaurant's too crowded, and your eyes aren't doing well. Let's head back to the room first, and I'll go get it," he said firmly, though there was a subtle hint of concern in his voice. I didn't argue, softly replying, "Okay." He escorted me back to the room, gave me a few more instructions, then left. A short while later, he returned with breakfast, sitting beside me and pushing the warm food in front of me. "Eat," I murmured and took the breakfast, feeling his steady gaze on me. The room remained quiet, with only our soft chewing and the faint morning light outside filling the peaceful moment. Seraphina's POV. An hour had passed since breakfast. I knew Magnus should be awake by now, so Nathaniel and I headed to the hospital room. When we pushed the door open, we found two more people inside, Nathaniel's second aunt and a distant cousin. A few boxes of gifts were stacked in the corner, clearly indicating that someone had been visiting. "Ah, Nathaniel, Seraphina, you're here." "Second aunt, cousin," Nathaniel and I greeted in unison, nodding. From the looks of it, Grandpa hadn't woken up yet. "Why don't you sit by Grandma?" Nathaniel whispered to me. The room had a small coffee table and two sofas. To make sure I could see clearly, he gently guided me over and helped me settle beside Grandma. "Our leader and queen have such a good relationship," his second aunt joked, her eyes sliding over us with a smile. She'd clearly heard the rumors about Nathaniel and Isolde Thornfield, but it didn't seem to bother her. To her, Nathaniel was a responsible alpha. "That's right, Nathaniel and Seraphina are truly a perfect match," cousin chimed in, her tone laced with flattery. Though she wasn't closely connected to the Silvermoon crest pack, she'd always made her living from its businesses. As soon as news of Magnus's hospitalization spread, she rushed over to make an appearance, clearly not wanting to miss the chance to show her face. Nathaniel remained composed, offering a light smile as he casually exchanged pleasantries. "How's Uncle doing lately? I heard he's been buying up a small factory." Cousin's eyes lit up immediately. Yes, he's been wanting to expand into the luggage business." They chatted for a bit, and Cousin seemed genuinely pleased. However, the conversation quickly shifted in another direction. Cousin's gaze swept between Nathaniel and me before she suddenly asked, "Leader Nathaniel, you're almost 30 now, right? And Queen Seraphina isn't exactly a spring chicken either. When are you planning to have a little howler?" Both second aunt and Grandma turned their eyes to us. "Exactly, you should start thinking about it," second aunt added. "Seraphina's at the perfect age for having children. It'll be easy for her to recover afterward." Nathaniel and I exchanged a look. Without thinking, my hand subconsciously rested on my lower abdomen. I was pregnant. But I couldn't let Nathaniel know. Nathaniel smiled faintly, his voice calm and firm. "We don't have any plans for a little howler right now." I tightened my fingers, trying to stay composed, and nodded gently. Grandma sighed softly, her voice tinged with a touch of helplessness. "Young people always want to enjoy their time alone together first. I won't rush you, but I do hope to hold a grandchild in my lifetime." I lowered my head, saying nothing. Nathaniel didn't say anything else either. He simply took my hand, gently squeezing it, as if trying to comfort me. The conversation in the room drifted back to mundane matters. After a while, Cousin stood up, preparing to leave. Grandma told Nathaniel to go about his business, that he didn't need to stay at the hospital all day. Once everyone had left, second aunt approached me, her voice lowered. "Seraphina, listen to your second aunt. Get started on giving the pack an air. Don't let those little minxes outside take advantage of the situation. Once you have your little howler, your position will be secure. No matter what those young girls try, they won't be able to stir up any trouble." I smiled faintly, responding coolly, "Thank you for the advice. I'll consider it." But in my heart, I couldn't help wondering, if I did have a pup, would Nathaniel grow attached? But I couldn't take that risk. I couldn't gamble Nathaniel's heart on the life of the little howler growing inside me. If I lost, I couldn't bear the consequences. Magnus had spent 3 days in the intensive care unit. After the doctor's examination, he was finally moved to a regular ward. I had stayed at the hospital the whole time, resting and visiting him every day, talking with him, listening to his stories from the past. My eyesight gradually improved, and everything around me became much clearer. Grandma hardly left his side, taking care of him without rest. However, Grandpa had never liked staying in the hospital, and as soon as he was moved out of the ICU, he couldn't help but complain, "Let me go back to the pack house. I can't stand the smell of this hospital." The atmosphere in the hospital room was warm and relaxed. I could tell everyone was encouraging Grandpa to stay a few more days at the hospital. Although he didn't really object, he stubbornly refused to admit it. "Come on, what's the big deal about staying a few extra days? It won't hurt you," Grandma said as she sat by the bed, peeling an apple with a helpless sigh. Grandpa muttered under his breath, "I don't like being in the hospital. I know my body better than anyone." Just then, the door opened and a familiar scent slowly filled the room. Nathaniel had arrived. "Grandpa, just listen to Uncle Damien and stay in the hospital for a few more days. Wait until you're fully recovered before going home. Otherwise, we'll all be worried," he said, his voice calm but firm. Grandpa didn't respond but let out a grunt, as if agreeing with Nathaniel's suggestion. I glanced at Nathaniel quietly and sighed to myself. His concern for Grandpa was as attentive as always. Maybe Grandpa wasn't in such a rush to leave the hospital, but simply preferred to be in control of everything. Nathaniel's eyes flicked briefly over to me as he walked past, and then he placed the bag he was carrying on the table. In a casual tone, he said, "I passed by the bakery in the city center and picked something up for you. Black Forest cake, the one from my favorite shop." A wave of warmth washed over me as I looked at his calm, composed face. I smiled. "Thank you." I eagerly opened the packaging and the familiar sweet taste melted in my mouth. I couldn't help but close my eyes in contentment. "Take it slow," Nathaniel's voice rang out suddenly, carrying a note of concern. I looked up at him, and on a whim I asked, "Would you like to try some?" As soon as the words left my mouth, I remembered Nathaniel didn't like sweets. But he just looked at me and gave a small nod. I froze for a moment, then gently picked up a small piece of cake with my fork and offered it to his lips. He didn't refuse, instead eating it without hesitation. Just then, Grandma's voice came from the side, filled with amusement. "Nathaniel, why didn't you bring something for Grandpa and me? Did you forget about us?" Grandpa squinted at Nathaniel and said with a meaningful tone, "Forget? No. What do you think? This kid used to hate sweets, and now..." I couldn't help but lower my head and chuckle. Over the past few days, Nathaniel had stayed at the hospital nearly every day. No matter how busy he was, he'd visit me morning and evening. Though he rarely spoke much, I knew his presence meant more than 1,000 words. "Stop teasing him," Grandpa said warmly, his gaze affectionate as he looked at me. "Seraphina has always liked sweets since she was little." It was true. Whenever I was feeling down, I always craved something sweet, as if that warm, comforting flavor could offer a little solace. I gently shook my head, smiling. "Grandpa, stop teasing me." I stood up to throw away the box, but I accidentally tripped on the edge of the table, losing my balance and falling forward. A strong arm swiftly caught me, and I fell straight into Nathaniel's embrace. His arms tightened around my waist, steadying me. Our breaths mingled, and my heart skipped a beat. "How careless!" His voice was low and gentle, with a hint of reproach. I held onto his shoulder to steady myself, a faint blush creeping up my face as I murmured, "Sorry, I must have gotten dizzy." In truth, I wasn't dizzy, but my vision hadn't fully cleared, and everything looked a little blurry. Nathaniel furrowed his brow, holding my shoulder and gently guiding me back to the sofa, his tone laced with concern. "Did you hurt yourself?" "I bumped my knee on the table corner," I whispered. Nathaniel immediately squatted down without hesitation, lifting my skirt to examine my knee carefully. His gaze darkened slightly as he saw the bruise forming on my knee, and he gently pressed his finger against it. "Ah!" I gasped, wincing in pain. "Don't touch it, it hurts." I quickly stopped him. He stood up, his tone serious and firm. "Stay here, I'll go get some medicine." "It's really nothing," I tried to reassure him. "That's not acceptable," he said, and without another word he quickly left the room. I lowered my head, suddenly feeling a teasing gaze on me. Looking up, sure enough, Grandma was watching us with a smile. She cleared her throat lightly and said leisurely, Finally this brat's come around. Don't be shy with him, ask him to do whatever you need." My face instantly turned red, and I nodded gently. "Grandma, I understand." Not long after, Nathaniel returned with some ointment. Without hesitation, he squatted down in front of me and carefully began to tend to my wound. His fingers were warm, and his movements were gentle yet focused, as if he were afraid he might hurt me. Watching him, with his brows furrowed in concentration as he applied the ointment, my heart skipped a beat. His gaze was as though he were looking at something precious. I sat there, watching Nathaniel carefully tending to my wounds. A strange, complex feeling stirred inside me. The sharp smell of antiseptic filled the air, but his touch was gentle. I didn't say anything. I just waited quietly. Once he'd finished applying the medical tape and gauze, he spoke softly. "All done. Cough, cough, Seraphina. Nathaniel, don't worry about your grandpa. I'll stay with him. You two should head back for now." Freya suddenly spoke up. Grandpa added from the side, "That's right. You can go back. I have your grandmother, the caretaker, and the nurse here. Nothing's going to happen. You don't need to waste all your time here. Seraphina's been cooped up in the hospital for days. She must be getting bored. Nathaniel, take her out for a meal. Let her stretch her legs." I shook my head gently. "Grandpa, I'm fine." But he looked at me and sighed. "Seraphina, I know you're being a good granddaughter, but you can't just focus on me. You need to take care of yourself, too." I lifted my head and glanced at Nathaniel, feeling a bit hesitant. He met my gaze, his eyes clear and unblinking, as though he could see right through me. Grandma, I'll take Seraphina out now. If you need anything, just call me," Nathaniel said, his voice low and firm. Grandpa waved his hand impatiently. I know. What could possibly happen in a hospital?" Nathaniel and I exchanged a glance before standing up and walking out of the room. As we reached the door, I instinctively pulled my hand away from his. Suddenly, I felt as though something was missing. The air seemed emptier, and without thinking, I raised my hand and gently clenched my fist. "What do you want to eat?" he asked softly. I hesitated for a moment before smiling. "How about that new restaurant on Oak Street? I heard it's pretty good." "All right," he nodded, his gaze gentle. We walked toward the garage and got into the car. I leaned back in the passenger seat, my eyes drifting toward the window. As the sound of the engine starting faded, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was a call from Leah at Nightfang Security, Seraphina's POV. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Xavier and Leon had no way to deny their actions. They had planned this in advance, intending to harm me. Nightfang Security decided to take action against them, though the final punishment would depend on the extent of the damage they caused. I furrowed my brow, still puzzled. How did they know my license plate number and my whereabouts? One of the Nightfang Security team members responded calmly, "Xavier works at a repair shop in the city. You've had your car fixed there before, and that's when he got your information. As for Leon, he's just an ordinary human. He hired someone to follow you, and your movements were reported to him by a friend." "All right, I understand," I replied shortly. After a brief pause, the Nightfang Security member continued, "Xavier has been identified as the aggressor. According to the laws of the werewolf world, the fate of an aggressor is clear. They are to be completely dismantled, expelled from pack territory, and left to perish in the dangerous dark world. As for Leon, he's just a regular human. His family wants to meet with you and hopes to seek your forgiveness." "I won't meet them," I interrupted coldly. "I don't need their apology or any compensation. I just want to make sure they face the consequences they deserve." "Understood." The Nightfang Security member seemed a little taken aback, but nodded. "We'll keep you informed of any updates, Luna." After the call ended, Nathaniel gave me a glance. "I'll have Grace Foster follow up on this and make sure they pay the price." Grace Foster was a lawyer contracted by Silvermoon Corp's legal department, specializing in cases involving werewolves in human society. She had nearly an unbroken record of winning her cases. "Thank you," I said simply. Don't mention it, Nathaniel smiled gently. The restaurant's decor was opulent and elegant, with the soothing sound of a piano filling the air. We found a seat toward the back, and the waiter handed us menus. Nathaniel opened his menu and began reading through the dishes carefully. I couldn't help but interrupt him. Won't we have too much food if we order that many dishes? I'm reading them out loud for you, Nathaniel said with a teasing smile. Can your eyes read clearly now? I realized what he meant and laughed. I'm not blind, just a bit blurry. I can still read the words fine. Just then, the waiter passed by and cheerfully recommended, Sir, madam, this is our popular couple's set meal. It's very affordable, and many people choose it. You too might want to try it. I hesitated for a moment before nodding. Let's go with that. Nathaniel's lips curved slightly, and he casually asked, How's your eyesight recovering? A bit better. I can see things much clearer now, I replied. And the text on your phone? He asked, almost as if testing me. I shook my head. Looking at it for too long gives me a headache. By the way, is something going on with the company? No, Nathaniel lowered his gaze. You should rest for a few more days. All right. I looked around, appreciating the restaurant's ambiance. The piano music was enchanting. The pianist plays well. I wonder what piece this is. Adeline by the Water, composed by Paul Seneville, Nathaniel replied indifferently. I was taken aback and looked at him in surprise. You know this? I've heard it played before, so I remembered it, Nathaniel smiled. The waiter soon arrived with our meal, desserts, steaks, foie gras, red wine, and more, and opened the wine bottle, pouring us each a glass. Nathaniel picked up his wine glass, raised his eyes to meet mine, a smile playing at the corner of his lips, his gaze sparkling. I raised my glass as well, gently clinking it with his before taking a sip. Nathaniel took the steak from my plate and placed it in front of himself, cutting a few pieces before returning it to its original spot. Thanks, I said softly. Nathaniel looked at me, his eyes warm and deep. You're welcome. After dinner, we walked out of the restaurant hand in hand. The cool breeze swept by, easing the slight drunkenness I felt. Nathaniel turned to me. Shall we head back to Pack House? Let's walk around the neighborhood. It'll help with digestion, I said with a hint of anticipation in my eyes. Okay. He nodded, holding my hand, and we walked side by side. The street was in a bustling commercial district, crowded with people coming and going, full of life and noise. We walked quietly, but we looked like any other couple, holding hands side by side, smiling and chatting. In this noisy city, I felt an inexplicable sense of peace in my heart. How I wished this moment could last forever, just us holding hands and walking together. Hey, that guy is handsome, a couple passed us by, the woman looking at Nathaniel a few times, quietly saying to her boyfriend. The boyfriend raised an eyebrow. You're shopping with me, and yet you're looking at another man? The girl pouted. You were checking out that beautiful woman earlier, the man responded, a bit irritated. I just looked at her once. You looked at him several times. Humph, am I not handsome? The girl snuggled up to his arm, teasing. You're handsome. You're the most handsome. Hearing their conversation, I couldn't help but laugh. Why are you laughing? Nathaniel turned his head to look at me, a hint of confusion in his expression. I slipped my arm through his, lifting my face to meet his gaze. My voice was light. Oh, it's nothing. There's a dance hall up ahead. Want to check it out? His Adam's apple moved slightly as he swallowed. Sure. The moment we entered the dance hall, a soft melody washed over us, smooth and flowing. On the dance floor, couples swirled together, moving in perfect harmony with the rhythm. In the booths along the walls, groups of people sat together, chatting or sipping their drinks, the atmosphere lazy and relaxed. My gaze naturally drifted to the center of the dance floor, and I couldn't help but stare a little longer. Do you want to dance? Nathaniel asked, a faint smile on his lips. I bit my lip, hesitant. I'm not very good. I can teach you. His words caught my attention, and a spark of excitement flickered within me. Nathaniel leaned slightly, extending his hand with the grace of a true gentleman. I placed my hand into his, and the moment our palms touched, warmth seeped through my fingertips. He guided me gently toward the dance floor, his lips curling into a charming smile. Place your hand on my shoulder and follow my lead. Take it slow. The steps began in time with the melody, and his voice murmured in my ear, helping me stay in rhythm. I tried to match his pace but stumbled a little. My foot slipped and I accidentally stepped on his leather shoe, leaving a distinct mark. I quickly looked up, feeling embarrassed. "Sorry." Nathaniel chuckled softly, his breath warm against my ear as he whispered, "It's fine." The sensation of his breath made me instinctively pull back slightly. The flashing lights cast his features in sharp relief, his face more striking in the shifting shadows, almost like a sculpture. His lips curved faintly, and his gaze intensified as it fixed on me, leaving me momentarily speechless. "What's wrong? Staring at me?" he teased. I snapped out of my daze, quickly lowering my lashes and nearly tripping over my own feet. Nathaniel chuckled again, amusement lacing his voice. I shifted uneasily, but the tips of my ears had turned a shade of pink. Gradually, I started getting the hang of it. My movements grew smoother, and the skirt of my dress swirled as I danced. My steps more confident now, blending into the music. Nathaniel's hand rested on my waist, guiding me with gentle control. "Got the hang of it?" he asked softly. I nodded, whispering, "Yeah." At that moment, someone in the crowd accidentally bumped into me. My foot slipped and I lost my balance, toppling forward into Nathaniel's arms. His reaction was quick. His strong arm reached out and caught me, steadying me at the waist. "You okay?" My heart raced and I took a shallow breath, shaking my head. "I'm fine." "Sorry for bumping into you," the person apologized awkwardly. "No problem," I responded with a small smile. Nathaniel glanced down at me, his eyes catching the faint sheen of sweat on my forehead. His voice softened as he said, "Let's head back." I nodded in agreement. "Okay." The night air was cool as I glanced at the hand Nathaniel had wrapped around mine, a strange, pleasant feeling bubbling up inside me. We walked to the parking space in front of the restaurant. Nathaniel released my hand and opened the passenger door for me. After I got in, he walked around to the other side and sat in the driver's seat. As I fastened my seatbelt, I was about to turn when I felt his eyes on me. "Seraphina?" His voice was low, carrying an unexpected weight. I froze, caught off guard. Before I could respond, he leaned in slowly. The night sky reflected in his eyes, dark and endless, like a galaxy in motion. I held my breath, my heart racing as I watched his handsome face come closer. His scent, faintly of cedarwood, brushed against my skin like a warm breeze. Without thinking, I closed my eyes. I slowly regained my senses and nudged him, my voice strained. "Your phone." He responded, barely above a whisper. "Don't worry about it. Let's continue." The ringtone kept ringing, persistent, before it paused. Then, within 2 seconds, it rang again. Nathaniel furrowed his brows, finally halting his movements. He rolled off me, climbed out of bed, picked up his suit jacket from the floor, and pulled out his phone. Glancing at the screen, he answered the call. "Hello, Miss Cassandra?" I couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but his expression grew more serious with each passing second. "All right, I understand. I'll be there soon." His tone was one I knew too well. Every time that name came up, his mood shifted. He immediately started straightening his clothes, donning his jacket, and then looked down at me. "I have to go out for a bit." I pulled the covers around me, propping myself up on my elbows, my voice tight. "What's going on? Is it really that urgent at this hour?" His movements stalled for a moment. "Cassandra, it has to be her. Isolde's in trouble, isn't she?" I watched him silently, and in that instant the last trace of warmth in my heart froze, as though ice-cold water had been poured over me, chilling me to the bone. "Isolde's missing, just as I feared." "Missing?" I pressed my lips together, forcing my voice to stay calm. "In that case, you should call the police first. Going there now won't change anything, will it? Or is she just waiting for you to chase after her? Isolde's condition is unstable. It's dangerous for her to be alone, and she's a public figure. Calling the police will affect her. I'll find her as soon as possible." He looked at me, his expression serious. "I promise, once I find her, I'll come back." I stared at him, my chest tightening as if a blunt knife was slowly being driven in. It hurt so much that I could barely breathe. Concern muddles the mind. That was probably her excuse for sending Nathaniel away, and I saw right through it. Too bad he couldn't understand. To him, Isolde's safety was everything, even the smallest risk. He couldn't ignore it. He wouldn't come back. I knew deep down that once he left, that door would never open again. I took a deep breath, swallowing the bitterness that rose in my throat. I gritted my teeth and summoned every ounce of courage. What if I don't want you to go? He furrowed his brow, his voice laced with impatience. Seraphina, don't be stubborn. Don't be stubborn. I bit my lip hard, the bitterness in my eyes sharp and hard to describe. Have you forgotten what you promised, Grandpa? I refused to give up. I had to try again. His mind was with her. If anything happened to her, he'd rush to her without a second thought. So, what was the point of his promise to stay with me? What was the point of having a mate who could be called away by another woman at any moment? His face hardened, his voice cold, almost indifferent. I only promised Grandpa to get along with you, but I never made any other commitment. And this is a matter of life and death. You're still going to cause trouble now? Don't you have any compassion? His words were like a bucket of ice water dumped over me. The chills swept through me from head to toe, freezing me, making my heart tremble. His impatience felt like an unforgiving answer, crushing every ounce of hope. He turned and left, the door slamming shut with a loud bang that echoed through the air. I collapsed onto the bed, clutching the blanket tightly, as though it were the last warmth left in the world. So cold. The room seemed to have grown colder, but even wrapped in the blanket, I still shivered, for the cold seeping deep into my bones, impossible to shake off. His voice echoed in my mind over and over again. Seraphina, don't be stubborn. I only promised Grandpa to get along with you, but I never made any other commitment. Don't you have any compassion? Every word he said felt like a sharp blade stabbing into my chest, tearing me apart until my heart bled. The pain was so raw, it nearly suffocated me. I had used up every bit of courage I had, and all I got in return were these cold, indifferent words. It turned out it had all been just my one-sided wishful thinking. These past few days of peace have lulled me into a false sense of security. I almost forgot about Isolde and the insurmountable wall that always stands between Nathaniel and me. As long as Isolde is in the picture, even if Nathaniel and I don't divorce, our lives will never be anything close to peaceful. I shouldn't have let myself crave this fleeting warmth. I should have understood this a long time ago, but why do I always lose myself so easily? Curled up in bed, my heart feels like ice. I close my eyes, tossing and turning, the ticking of the clock echoing in the silence. Time slips by unnoticed as I struggle to fall asleep. I don't know how long it took, but eventually my mind grew hazy and I drifted into a deep sleep. The next morning I woke up to an empty bed. The sheets beside me were so smooth, they seemed untouched, exuding a chilling emptiness. I glanced up at the clock on the wall. It was already past 9. Taking a deep breath, I pushed aside the weight on my chest, gathered myself, and headed downstairs. Luna, you're awake. I'll prepare breakfast for you, Arya said. Has Nathaniel come back yesterday? I asked softly. No, Alpha. He didn't come back, Arya sighed, shaking her head. I see. My heart felt heavy as I sat on the couch, casually picking up my phone and glancing at the screen. It was blank. No messages. After breakfast, around 10 o'clock, I asked Rowan to take me to the hospital. Rowan parked at the entrance. I opened the car door and got out, ready to head upstairs. But as I casually glanced around, my eyes froze on a familiar license plate. I paused, thinking I might have mistaken it. I stopped and looked again. No mistake. It was Nathaniel's car. Wasn't he supposed to be with Isolde? Why was he at the hospital? I slowly walked up the stairs, my steps involuntarily slowing. An inexplicable weight settled in my chest. When I reached the hospital room door, a familiar voice drifted out. Grandpa, Grandma, I remember the last time we met. You asked if I liked that delicate, smooth caviar. Time has passed so quickly. Your fate is already in tune with the moonlight. Everything will get better. It was Isolde Thornfield. A chill ran through me, as if cold air had engulfed me. The temperature around me seemed to drop to freezing. I froze at the door, my fingers tightening slightly. I stood there unsure whether to go in or walk away.